following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
Hello, everyone, and welcome again to Us Democrats here on Access Nashua, the show hosted and run by Democrats. My name is Dave Tenza, Chair of the Nashua Democratic City Committee. Thank you for joining us, as always, or as we have sometimes here. Occasionally, is my co-host, Representative Ken Gidge from Ward 6 here in the city. Representative, welcome back.
Yeah, we've had a couple weeks off, but we're back.
A couple weeks around the holiday. It's been,
That's right.
Been very, very hectic, but we're glad to be back getting it going again. And it's been, politically, it's been a busy couple weeks, even though we've been quiet here in town. I know recently you had a chance to interview on the air a constituent of yours surrounding an issue that's very important to a lot of people in the state of New Hampshire, and that's pretty current, and that has to do with Medicaid expansion and trying to get people who are uninsured health care so they can take care of their needs. Could you just, in case people hadn't seen that interview, could you just tell us a little bit about that?
He's a constituent. He's from Ward 6, and he called me up. I've known him for a while, but I've talked to him shortly once before, and he called me the other day. His first name is Michael. We're not going to give his last name. And he ended up crying. He was, seriously, a grown man crying. And he said, look, I have type 1 diabetes. I can't afford everything. Where he should be testing himself, he can't afford test strips. Himself probably twice a day. He does it like every 3 days, once. His medicines, just for one part of it, is I think $380 or a month, but he's only taking one part of it. He needs a second part of it. He's worked his whole entire life, never got a speeding ticket. Always had insurance, always kept his, he owns a small house, the property is very well kept. He's a gardener. He's one of those, individuals you want not only as a neighbor, as you want him in your state because he's strong. He's one of those individuals who asks for nothing. And he came down with this disease, and he lost his insurance, and all of a sudden, he's in the position where, what am I going to do? And
I haven't seen the interview yet either. How did he lose his insurance? He had employer-based health insurance before?
Yes, he did have, I guess it was a change in employment, and when that took place, he lost his insurance, and then when his illness came and it was diagnosed, then he couldn't get insurance.
Okay.
Now he can't afford insurance. And he's one of those individuals that, we talk about Medicaid a lot, but we don't put really faces and we don't put voices so you can see these individuals and who really need it, who never wanted anything, is too proud, would rather die. I'm serious. This gentleman was right on the borderline. I mean, he's getting help now and from some private agencies, but I mean, here's the type of person that Medicaid is for. An individual who has done everything properly, played the game, paid the bills, his taxes. He's done everything. And all of a sudden, this illness has completely knocked him and his family down. He is one of those types of people who need it. In fact, David, he didn't want to be seen on air, so we're blocking him out. We're going to change his voice so people don't recognize him, recognize his voice. And I said, why? He says, well, I'm worried. Kelly Ayotte and his friends, her friends. I says, that's not going to happen. Well, the police, they're going to find out, and the police are on her side. I'm going, well, I don't think so. But here is an individual who's extremely sane, extremely rational, but is afraid. And we're not getting people who will sit up from across you and me, from both of us, and tell us the story. And tonight, we got somebody who did it, and it's good to put someone who really truly needs it. It's
Sure.
not, not.
And I think that's part of the problem with talking about expanding these types of government programs, especially for lower income people. I mean, when the president talks about Obamacare and the Affordable Care Act and offering insurance through the exchange, through these healthcare exchanges, it's individuals who are going to pay something for it, probably get some subsidies from the government through tax benefits. But a young kid who doesn't have insurance but has a job and can pay for it is different than someone who's middle-aged, who's proud, who's worked all their life. It's much tougher to speak out about that kind of thing. So I, for one, thank your constituent for coming forward and telling his story, because I think it's a story that needs to be repeated. And I think a lot of legislators, particularly here in New Hampshire in the Senate, who want to continue to delay and to tinker with these plans, it really is something that needs to be enacted immediately.
There's 3 people who are holding it up in the entire state of New Hampshire. Mm-hmm. And part of, we'll call it Obamacare, mm-hmm. okay, is that put people on Medicaid who can't afford insurance,
right.
Not even buy insurance. Right. So this takes the weight off emergency rooms, mm-hmm. doctors getting paid, hospitals getting paid something. Right. I mean, here's a real even way of keeping everyone fairly happy, from sure. doctors, hospitals. Everybody's going to get a little something, and the individual is going to be helped.
And one of the things I think is remarkable about the Medicaid program, Medicaid expansion, it's not like other benefits that a lot of very conservative people are against, like food stamps, where people are getting a direct benefit. Essentially what you're saying is you're providing health care for low-income individuals. They're not getting a direct benefit. They're going to the hospital. I mean, the hospitals are getting paid. These doctors are getting
exactly.
So to me, I think if we pitched it more in those terms, that all these people are doing are getting care for their medical issues. And frankly, your constituent, it's a great example. I mean, he's not getting the care that he needs for his diabetes. So the diabetes is only going to get worse.
That's right.
And he's only going to end up in the hospital. And they have to. He's
had problems with his kidneys.
Right.
He's had problems with his eyes.
Right. And the medical community is going to want to treat him when he finally shows up in the emergency room, essentially. But why not give him the care up front so he doesn't end up in the emergency room? Because we all know the cost of going to an emergency room, cost of emergency medical care is a lot greater than the cost of preventative care.
They wanted to keep him there for a week. He was there for one night, and I think he was saying the 10 hours cost like $3,000 or more, and he's paying $5 a month to pay off the bill. These are the type of the people who need it. These are the type of people, especially this proud individual, a family, a son who, let's say, is not in the United States and is doing something for everyone. I'm not going to get too complicated because I don't want anybody to know really who he is. But I think you got an idea of what I'm talking about. So they're sort of, real strong country people, the United States
sure.
of America, flying the flag and helping people. Mm-hmm. And when these people got hit like this, and then we don't help, we send them where? To the emergency rooms.
Right.
And how much does that cost us?
A lot of money. A lot of money. I mean, anyone who goes to the emergency room and gets the itemized bill later on, even if you have insurance, it always shocks me how much they charge for the services. And I don't have an opinion on whether the services are worth the amount of money, because obviously if you're in dire need for medical help, they are. But, it costs a lot. It costs a lot. And a lot of us don't realize how lucky we are that we don't have to make those choices every day, that we have employer-based health care or government health care run through Medicare or some other program.
In this case with him, we've talked, and there are people who have committed suicide for these reasons, mm-hmm. because they're so proud. I don't think I don't think there's anyone who's watching the show or listening who really wants someone to off themselves because they are too proud either to ask, and then when they ask, they only get half of what they need. So here's a very proud person who finally said, I need help, and then he gets only half the help, so he's bordering all the time. So we've got to do something. And then the Affordable Care Act. The Republicans made it illegal in the state of New Hampshire for lawmakers. In other words, as a lawmaker, I'm a lawmaker, I can't make a law because the Republicans made a law that said we cannot have in the state of New Hampshire to set up an insurance exchange. So look what is happening to us.
Right. Well, right, and I think all the evidence has shown across the country that the states that have set up their own exchanges have done much better.
Having a great, yes.
Done much better than the states that have relied on the federal government exchange. But that's not to say, I mean, the federal government exchange is getting a lot better than it was the first month. And more people are enrolling online at healthcare.gov. You can go there, you can call up. I don't have the number with me right now, but you can go on over the phone, and there are a lot of people who come January 1st, they're going to pay their premium, and they're going to have health care for their first time, if ever, or
and it's
first time in a
never
long
going to be
time.
taken away from them for if they get sick and
Right.
they can't lose their insurance.
Right.
And you know, can you imagine a country where we're sending our kids to fight, all right? And they're worried about their wives or kids at home who don't have insurance, okay? There's a lot of this that takes place.
Sure.
Well, we have to take care of the people if we want to be a productive country. It's already seen that we fall, and the United States has gone down in many things, economically, education-wise. I mean, it's infant mortality. Cuba is ahead of us for infant mortality. I mean, when you start seeing these things, all of a sudden you've got to stop, put the brakes on, say everybody has to be cared for one way or another. So it's a horrible subject, and I don't like to backpedal, but I'll tell you something. The elected Republicans must do something. They must stand up and be men and women.
Well, they have to, and well, I think come January 1st, there's going to be a big push to show how much money the state is losing because we didn't sign up for Medicaid expansion, when it started in January 1st. And from what I understand, the state can opt into the program quarterly at any time. So
Opt out, yeah.
Opt out or
We
opt
can
in.
opt out or opt in. $800,000 a day.
Right.
$800,000 a day. Right. The state of New Hampshire will lose because of probably 2 or 3 Republicans in the Senate. And at this particular point, I'm not saying Republicans, I'll say elected officials, because we all both know, David, there are Republicans out there who know everybody needs to be insured.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, a lot of Republicans, I think, in the business community, too, know that this could be a major boost for the state, for the economy, and really serve everyone well.
Well, you're a prosecutor in the city of Nashville. You're head of the Democratic Party. As a prosecutor, yes. Do you ever see particular circumstances where people, because of either money or illness, get themselves into trouble?
Oh, all the time. I think obviously those are major stressors in people's lives, both money and illness, not only for themselves but for family members. It puts an economic strain on people to the point where they make awful choices. Either they do things like steal money, or even puts them into depression.
You're a prosecutor.
Yep.
And we pay for your work. If people had, jobs or something else, but if people had the health care, how much could we save from people not causing troubles?
A lot, and I'll tell you why. Because so much of, or in what we've seen over the last couple of years, what I've seen, this is my personal opinion, there have been so many services cut back in the community. In a city like Nashua, it's great. All the mental health services, substance abuse services. People, they're just not available to people like they were 5 years ago. A large reason for that is obviously the money has dried up from the federal government and the state government. If you expanded Medicaid and people who were 18 to 62 are low-income people allowed to get those services when they need them, rather than wait till they enter into the criminal justice system and then have a court tell them you got to go and get substance abuse treatment or you got to go get mental health treatment. It would be a huge reduction in the system, I'm sure.
Millions, probably.
Probably, and that affects not only the courts, it frees up time in the court, it affects the Department of Corrections.
And people who don't get the medicines or they affect other people by either robbing or doing some sort of a crime. So it's not, it starts with one person and then go like that.
Right.
But it can come right back if they have help, I take it.
Oh, absolutely. I'm a firm believer. People don't want to be out there committing crimes. No one chooses that lifestyle for themselves. I mean,
why do you think, and again, I hate to say Republicans, but it's elected Republicans, why do you think they will not push for Medicaid? What is it that's stopping them?
I mean, I think it's ideology. I think it's the Republican base. I think is what they're worried about until the next election, unfortunately. You know, it's interesting because this week in Washington we saw Republican leadership in the House come forward with a bipartisan budget deal, short-term budget deal, more bipartisan than they've been in a while. And they've had to, publicly say that, the Tea Party, the very conservative groups in Washington, aren't doing the Republican Party any good, which has been interesting. But we haven't had anyone in New Hampshire come out and say that quite yet. We haven't had anyone stand up and say, we're going to do what we think is best for the state of New Hampshire and not, just what our narrow base wants us to do. And it's tough because you know how it is. I mean, there's election every 2 years if you're either a senator or a representative.
It's really hard. It's hard to go out and get elected. And then especially here in New Hampshire where a lot of people, we are the only volunteer government in the United States. We get paid $100 a year.
Sure.
So it's really hard, and you got to be kind of creative up here.
Sure.
To do the job.
You do, but you would also agree that there are a lot of benefits to the job. I mean, you enjoy doing it. You wouldn't have done it for so long if you didn't enjoy being up in Concord.
I got something to tell you, David. I'm on Commerce, which is banking and insurance. And if you think for a moment, as I'm on my third term, which is 6 years, if you think when I first got in there, it was all banking. It was the falling of the banks. Now it's all insurance. If you want to be in one particular committee that you're so busy and you got to be so persistent, it's got to be Commerce, banking and insurance.
Sure.
It's hard.
Sure.
It's really, really hard.
And those are two highly regulated industries that have a huge interest in the outcome of a lot of legislation that goes, before
they spent millions of dollars with lobbyists. And I think that people up here, I never knew really how powerful lobbyists were until somebody said to me, oh, how much has banking or insurance companies given you to run? I said, well, I haven't got a penny from banks or insurance companies. And they said, well, you must be doing something right because a lot of people they put from banking on the committee or they put, depending on whoever's Republican, Democrat who's running it, they put banking people on the committee or they put insurance people. So what do? They go along with banking and insurance. Right. I just am very neutral about it.
Right. Well, so even though it's a part-time legislature, I mean the issues are just as serious as any other state in the country.
Part-time?
Now I don't want to say part-time, but it's a volunteer legislation.
It is a volunteer, and there are people who get on committees that only show up maybe once every 2 weeks, but you're going to be there on a Wednesday, and so that really is part-time. The committees I'm in, we're there at least 4 days a week. And then after that, it's filing bills, et cetera. But, and we're coming in right now. They have to, by January 1, we have to start talking if we're going to run or we're not going to run.
Sure.
And you're, as the head of the Democratic Party, here we go again.
Right. Oh, it's a very quick cycle. And next year, 2014, I mean, it starts up in April and then ends in November on Election Day. So it's
correct.
It's a long summer every other year, and
long summer.
Which is why this year we've tried to relax a little bit as much as we could here in Nashville. The National Democrats, we've had 2 special elections, so that hasn't always been the case. But we did have our a little Christmas social this week.
And I couldn't make it. How'd it go?
It went fantastic. We did it down at San Francisco Kitchen, down on Main Street. They treated us great. Had delicious food. We had a full. The bar was full, 50 or 60 people. We were collecting all the proceeds from the night went to the National Soup Kitchen and Shelter, and people were very, very generous. So we were able to collect about $500.
Wow.
That'll be.
That's good.
Donated to the soup kitchen, and especially at this time of year, we all know it's every little bit helps. So hopefully that'll help them collect the food that's needed for families here in Nashua. So it was a great night all along, and a good way to end the year, and a good way to begin next year as we start all of our tough work once again.
It is going to be a lot of tough work.
Yeah, it will be. Midterm elections, it's always tough.
The midterm, yeah, it's going to be fascinating. I have a feeling, usually they say the Republicans are going to pick seats up. I don't think so. I think with using Medicaid as an example, 61% are women, and they really are having a hard time with women, the Republicans are, and they're going against Medicaid, which is $800,000 a day, that we will be losing.
Right.
$800,000 a day. So I'm not sure Republicans will do that very good in New Hampshire.
Well, I hope not. It seems like New Hampshire and nationally, they're hoping to make 2014 a referendum on Obamacare again, which we thought that's what happened in 2012, and Democrats did very well. So, if that's what the fight that they want to pick, we're happy to have that fight because, frankly, because of the Affordable Care Act, children are able to stay on their parents' health plan until they're 26 years old, which is a feature that a lot of people like. You can't be denied coverage now because you have a pre-existing condition, which is a great plan, which is a benefit that no one's going to want to give up. A range of women's health care issues are covered now that that weren't covered under, that wouldn't have been covered under previous plans. And more people are signing up for health care on the health care exchanges, either the local state exchange or the federal health care exchange. So
correct, but also let us make something really clear, because you know and I know, there has to be changes, there has to be adjustments.
Oh, absolutely.
There has to be figuring it out, but let's do it as Republicans and Democrats. Let's not take credit, Republicans or Democrats, let's do it together, not one or the other. No one's going to go back on, taking women's issues. No one, you can't get insurance or anything like that. They're not going to do that. Or children can't be on an insurance policy till they're 20. No one's going to take that back. So why don't we just, make it work?
Well, that's the thing. The parties have to work together, just like, we've got to work together here in New Hampshire because we have a somewhat divided government with the Senate controlling the Republicans controlling the Senate. So you're right. There are changes that need to be made, but people should be able to come together and make those changes for to strengthen the program. People who think that the Affordable Care Act or Obamacare is going away are just, I think, sadly mistaken, and they're just really on the wrong side of history. They're just delaying a really great benefit, really great program for people who need it.
In about a decade from now, we're gonna make some adjustments, et cetera. It's never gonna go away.
No.
And with the help of Republicans also, the Democrats have put this forward, now with help with Republicans and Democrats, it's gonna be good for the world.
Oh,
It's gonna make us stronger at home. And that's important, where people don't understand. When you don't have insurance, and you go out and try to get a job, and you can't get a job, and they'll only give you 30 hours without insurance, and guess what? You become weaker at home.
Right.
We lose the middle class, and that can't happen. The middle class is very, very important. The middle class pulls the lower class, the people who are really having a hard time, and it also sends people into a class maybe in wealth a little higher. So we need a middle class.
Well, and I think it's clear, the middle class drives the economy.
That's right.
In the 1950s and 60s, when the country was doing great, it was the middle class that was out there spending money, spending the money that they earned, and really making everything work better for everybody. And you're right, the country is able to elevate people out of poverty at that point.
But one other thing, I think it's really important, and I think you'll agree on this. If there are Republicans out there or people who are out there who would like to come on and maybe criticize us or talk about an issue, come on. And especially Republicans who may be looking for a little change. I have a feeling that they would be happy with the Democrats. And of course, you can always change back if you want, but come over here and learn a little of what we're doing.
Sure, absolutely. And part of the problem, I think, between Democrats and Republicans is that there's no conversation. People aren't listening to each other, so no one's understanding where anyone is really coming from. So I agree. If there are Republicans out there, if there are Democrats who would disagree with us, who want to come on the show,
absolutely.
and they don't have to be elected, just you want to come on here and talk for 10 to 15 minutes, we'd love it. We'd love to get local people, local elected officials on the show, which is a nonpartisan in the city elections, but obviously the people who are involved have a certain point of view when they're governing. So anyone who wants to come on the show can get in touch with me. Just email me at dave.tenza@gmail.com. Now, my last name is Tencza, and it's @gmail.com. Or you can get in touch with Ken.
At Kgidge, that's KGIDGE at AOL.com, or go to Gidge World, which is an art site.
Great. And that'd be great. It'd be great to have some guests on here, panels, and we've started this show this fall. We're
I think they're chicken. You want to know the truth? I think the Republicans are chicken.
You think so?
Oh, absolutely. They want to conduct, and they want to preach to the choir. They don't want to come on here.
Yeah. Well, that could be. Maybe we'll force their hand somehow.
I think we will.
We'll trick them into it. But that's actually all the time we have for this week. We're doing a short show this week, but with me as always, Representative Ken Gidge. Representative, thank you again for being here.
Thanks, Dave.
Cole Holston. I'm Dave Tenza. This has been Us Democrats on Access Nashua. Thanks.
The preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.